possible pickups. I mean, do you think either of these teams would really go that off meta? It's not. It's more of an infamous thing to do that.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. Actually, not Celeste being picked up because Celeste has already been banned out. I actually forgot draft itself. But from the side of Sync1, or rather, Sync1 is the jungler of BREN Esports. So we might actually see with that Black Feather being banned out, maybe a Sky just does well. And if it's a Sky, then we might see a Taka that will come up from the side of Impunity. And I personally think with the amount of lockdown that Impunity actually have in terms of that Lance, Taka will be a very, very good pickup on top of that Castro. I mean, Lance is one of those heroes that can provide similar thick walls like that of Finn, but have the increased mobility all in all. However, we will be seeing a Taka being picked up by the side of BREN Esports. In order to counter that, honestly, there is not much of a counter, but BREN, or the side of Impunity, can easily just pick up the... my brain just farted on me, but they can just pick up that Scarf. Yes, there you go, the little baby dragon, in which they are so very comfortable with as well. If not, then Samuel do not do well against that Taka, but I personally think that Scarf, or rather Taka, do not, and it's not a direct counter into that of Scarf, unless Taka goes for the Shatter Glass and Clockwork and can burst Scarf down almost immediately.
I would worry if they pick up the Scarf, however, although Scarf is a very good late game hero. You're going up against a weapon power Idris who's just going to be able to jump past the Lance and onto this Scarf, and then if Taka simultaneously will also jump onto Scarf, as long as they're able to lock him down, get the burst damage they need onto them and kill him. I don't think it's such a good pick, and you can see that really Impunity taking their time to think about this one, as it is a bit of a tough decision on what to make for the last pick. And they're running right into their bonus time. 2 seconds left, and they're going to pick up the Jewel.
Well, relatively interesting pickup, I'm guessing X there, having both contracts, the Dragon Blood contract and the Protector contract on that of Arden. We are seeing very aggressive maneuvers coming out from the side of Impunity, as usual.
Yep, they're going to roam right into BREN Esports jungle, take away that mid camp, and take away the fronts as well. A very good... Oh, nope, they're just going to go for the mid camp. I guess it makes sense that they want to get this over with, and then the fronts aren't worth as much gold and experience, so they're going to be able to take that away and then just leave the rest of the team on their way, because they must still be respecting that, you know, if we get caught out early game, we don't want to make any mistakes there. We're going to just play this one nice, smooth, and more than likely Impunity going to have a good transition into the mid game, but we'll have to see, because right now BREN Esports still have an opportunity for them. The game just started, and they've got a fairly decent comp on their side.
Yep, they have got a fairly decent comp, and all in all, very different from the comp that they've pulled out, have been pulling out at least. A lot of times when they play, they like to go with very aggressive power sieging comp, but in this case we are not seeing it. So instead we are seeing very much like a bruiser, right? Because with that perk on Jewel is very much like a bruiser. There is really nothing that he can burst down almost immediately, but of course I'm not denying the damage coming up from Thunder Strikes after you get your first Sorrow Blade. If not, then say your Sorrow Blade into your Tyrant's Monaco or Tornado Trigger, you will be doing a lot of damage then.
Yeah, both teams are going to really take advantage of once they can get those items, build up those first initial items. I mean, neither is so much late game. If anything, this Idris pickup is definitely going to favor a lot more from the late game, but should be all right into the early ones. He also gets the Sorrow Blade, but you know, the real power spike for Jewel, and it's what I talked about before of why Weapon Power Jewel is just such a good pickup, and I'm surprised we don't see it more often. It's just really good in the early game once you have that. You don't need to focus on defense, and you can just focus on going towards your items really fast.
And honestly, not just in the early game as well. Weapon Power Jewel, or Jewel in general, just scales so well throughout the game because of your plating, right? with your
Yeah.
with the amount of placing you have, you can really just, you know, stand in the midst of fight, and on top of that, you have Lance just able to just tank up and soak up for you, and just allow QC to just poke from the back lines. And that is something that Impunity has that the entirety of BREN Esports do not have. If you realize, BREN Esports heroes, they are very squishy, they are assassins after all. They want to go in for that kill. But QC though,
Oh, there's going to be the Impale coming out by Quarter. Yeah, QC trying to get the shots down there. We're guessing should be able to find their way out there. Gets hit by one glove shot, but there's no follow-up with that. As Quarterboard didn't have the Impale up just yet, but it's up now. He might stick around for the fight. He's looking for something here as we see Sync 1 push him from the side of BREN Esports. And right now, Impunity being very aggressive up in this lane. And yeah, while they push in, they're just going to push in the wave, then turn away from it. They might even be able to catch out Sync 1, who was caught out by one of those scout traps. He's going to go back instead, not going to risk it, knowing that it's probably not worth it. The backs did just come up, however. And yeah, but going back to Jewel, and I think it's why through the draft phase, when we saw Jewel as final pick, it's just such a good talking point because it isn't picked so often, but it is such a good pick. And you talked about how well it transitions just through the whole game. And I totally agree with that. It's completely because of this perk, the heavy planting, and that it's just able to get them so much, and it just makes it, I don't know how to put it. You're right about they're able to stand in the middle of a lot of fights, but one weakness you've got is when you're turning your back to the enemy, they're able to do a lot more damage, and sometimes if you're not too careful, you know, it could be more than you're expecting. But I think as long as Impunity are able to hold the aggression, they should be fine, and that's why you see them constantly pushing in this free-man kind of style, even putting the minion candies up into this lane. But Taka not really going to help out the rest of his team as the turret gets sieged on. And wow, the Glimmer Shot's almost taking it down. 5 minutes in, and they managed to get it with that. And there's going to be the Pale. DefQ might look for the rocket jump, but just going to go in with the Thunder Strikes instead. Should be able to find the first blood onto Guessing, and now going to chase down Mr. Jim, make sure he goes away. But meanwhile, Taka did go to the back, so I'm surprised he didn't take more than that. I think he is worried that Impunity might come looking, but no, Impunity are just so distracted by these objectives right now, and I mean, why not? They have the damage, and they are just able to siege so well.
Yep, I don't want to say distracted, but this is how Impunity have been playing for a while now. They are very objective focused. Once they tunnel vision into a turret, there is nothing stopping them. And this is easy, just 500 gold going over to them, to the entire team. There is no reason QC should just risk going back to the backs and just give up a siege that they can probably just earn for themselves. And oh, big red button, but no damage whatsoever, just used to clear out the lane.
Yeah, to clear the lane indeed, but as long as Impunity can keep this pressure, they should be fine, and it's what we talked about. If they give over, however, and stop focusing on objectives to the side of BREN Esports, BREN might be able to make some kind of comeback here, especially into the mid where we see gold mines starting to fill up. It's definitely one of the next objectives that the side of Impunity will be looking for to continue to push their lead. So what I'm looking for here is Impunity really want to keep this wave pushed up to give them a chance to go for the gold mine, but the damage coming off of that chakram onto QC has to be careful. They're going a very glass cannon build, and unlike DefQ, you don't have that passive defense, so QC needs to be careful. Uses one shot, one kill, lands onto Guessing, not the target you're looking for, but Sync 1 gonna jump in onto DefQ, and just a bit of poke damage going off by either team right now. Have to see how this fight breaks out further on, because they do have the Arden available to them on the side of BREN Esports, which is a very good hero to help get anyone out of trouble with the Vanguard. But right now, Impunity just kind of sitting back. They don't want to push ahead too much, and it's what you talked about before. They can sometimes get a bit too tunnel vision with that, and then let the grasp, like let the win they had slip.
Yep, I mean, they are usually very, very calculative in terms of how they move, how they just maneuver throughout the map. And I must say, it applies to this game as well. When they know they cannot push for any objective, they will just go back. They will just go back to farm. They will not waste a single minute. Mr. Jim, however, looking for DefQ.
Oh, DevQ having to run away, and this could be the chance for BREN Esports as they go in with the gauntlet, but they all jump into the active camo, and Kestrel's going to get massive damage from that, but gets taken down by the Idris before they can finish anyone off, and Mr. Jim is going to fall to Joel, but Joel is going to fall to Taka, and Taka going to jump back into the fight. They're trying to get the Lance, but Lance is going to get Taka, and Quartervore is so low, we'll guessing jump back in to finish him off. We'll have to see about that, but looks like he's going to run away instead. I'm surprised. Quartervore looking for the fight, meanwhile Guessing actually backing off. Oh! And it looks like Guessing X going to be able to make the recall just in time. And wow, you can see that it's still very even if BREN Esports are able to really get a fight in their advantage there by being the aggressors themselves. It forces Jewel to turn their back away. And you're also just splitting up this really squishy team comp, because when you look at it, the team of Impunity, it's tanky when it's attacking, but as soon as they turn their back to you, you've got Jewel, who obviously, literally, when they turn their back to you, is going to take so much damage, but there's no longer that all the damage, the burst damage coming out by Quisi on the Kestrel. You don't have to worry about those glimmer shots coming into your face, and then you could just see how it's very close, and if played any differently, could have gone completely in BREN's favor, or could have gone completely in Impunity.
There you go, Impunity starting out a gold miner. There will be response from the side of BREN Esports.
Yep, and we see they're able to take the gold mine there, and now it looks like Impunity the Impale onto Taka, but Taka going to be able to run away from that, but the one-shot kill does land, and they're going to jump back in, being the aggressors once again, and this is what I like to see from BREN Esports, as they punish the side of Impunity for trying to force a fight, and we now see them chase down, looking for the ace. They're more than likely to get it, but the Impale over the wall by Quartervore will stop them, and they're just going to have to go for the Crystal Sentry instead.
Yep, and in that team fight alone, I want to say that, you know, Taka just positioned himself so well. He went into the back of Jewel, because we all know that if Jewel actually, you know, faces away, she gets dealt so much damage onto her. So what Taka did was really just Xretsu goes to the back of Jewel and then deal damage. Then DevQ afterwards had the chance to actually take Taka down, but DevQ didn't. DevQ turned her attention to something else, someone else, and thus, you know, that really just turned the fight around for the side of BREN Esports. But that was a very good execution coming out from BREN Esports. However, QC constantly being in the midst of fight just do not pay well whatsoever for the side of Impunity. QC really wants to outplay, wants to have those outplay potential, wants to fight outside the arena that, you know, Arden can just put down with that gauntlet.
Yep, and Gauntlet not up right now for another 20 seconds, so this could be the chance if Impunity are looking for a fight. However, if they don't, it's going to be reset and in favor of BREN, so they're able to really... It's such a good zoning mechanic for the side of BREN Esports when they're able to put that down, and more so than not, they're able to win out the fights because Idris in those kind of situations is so close quarters, and Taka able to jump around causes a lot of chaos. Whether BREN Esports are able to find the first turret in their name, it looks like they will with the Chakra. Mr. Jim going to be able to jump out there, doesn't get hit by the one-shot, one-kill. Taka looks like they might be caught up, but uses Kaku to get away. So BREN Esports able to get a turret, able to get out there safe, and they hold on to that gauntlet once again. Good to see that the defensive gauntlet wasn't thrown out, that we see some Ardens do, like right now, because it makes me worry whether the side of BREN Esports are going to have to wait another 75 seconds before they can really utilize that in a team fight, and that gives the side of Impunity another window to push.
Yep, that will definitely give Impunity another window to push, but one thing for sure is that at this point in time, the next turret for them to push would be the anchor turret, and that is the most difficult turret to push. And although they had a 6k gold lead earlier on, but now at this point in time, the side of BREN Esports have already softened the gold lead into about 1,000 throughout. And BREN Esports have got a kill lead as well. Quartervore finding both Idris and Sync1. One shot, one kill lands on Sync1, but they will, or rather Sync1 will just Kaku and get back to almost well.
Yeah, and that's the problem if you're not using that one shot, one kill for executions, especially on the CP Kestrel. It's not being used to its full potential, as we see Idris jumping onto the backline, trying to find Quisi, and they will be able to, making sure that the constant damage is there and they can't go into the active camo. But DefQ fighting it out. They managed to take out the Idris, but now they have to fight the... Oh my god, they managed to get the Arden, but not the Taka. Taka able to kaku away out of there once again. I thought they were able to initially take out the Taka as well, and that's why it's so stunned. But Taka, still left standing, is going to just move into the enemy jungle, maybe steal some farm away here.
Yep, he will be able to. Oh, but that was taken back by Quaterfall. Very, very well played. Taka immediately realizes there's vision there and will back off after popping that scout. And honestly, in that team fight alone, Jewel had got a lot of damage, had got a lot of tankiness as well, and could have stayed there for a far longer time as well. But Sync 1 is just so skilled, or rather so crafty with this Taka, just knowing when to attack DefQ, and that is constantly from the back. And the first target for them, for the side of BREN Esports, ultimately is constantly QC on that of Castro. And once Castro goes down, or when Castro is being attacked, then Castro cannot go in this, and that is the issue. Oh, but we are seeing a rather sneaky gold, or rather turret push coming up from the side of BREN Esports.
BREN Chong, the mix of the old team and the new one, and they're going, name I should say, fairly much still the same team, different name, and they're going to be able to get out there, however, with that sneaky turret steal that you did talk about. But we need to be careful for Idris, who gets caught out in the Impale. There goes down the gauntlet, and Idris is going to jump in, but can he find Quisi? Yes, he can, and he should be able to get out of there alive without attracting DefQ's attention. He even throws a Chakram in there to pick up the double kill. Very nice, well played, and that's the thing you talked about before. BREN Esports doing a great job of shutting down this team comp, because as long as they manage to break it apart and jump onto Quisi early, that's when they really just win the team fight overall, because after that, they have the man advantage and they're able to fight out and just win against DefQ, because although they're tanky and they have a lot of damage to them, they're also weak from a lot of positions. So when they overwhelm them like that, it's really when they have the biggest advantage there. Meanwhile, we see Sync 1 keeping more busy. One shot, one kill came out, but just a bit late, I believe. A bit late or a bit too early. I'll have to watch back on that one. And Kraken manages to go over to the side of BREN Esports. So they've done a very good job from what looked like a dangerous early game to get to where they are now, and they're playing it very well. And this is what I love to see from BREN Esports. And I said they had a lot of potential as a team, and to bring such a good fight up against Impunity. The question is just whether they're able to finish it out.
Yep, it is just down to this, but they are looking very, very strong so far, constantly catching QC on that's Castro up, and once they can do that, it will be an easy game for the side of BREN Esports. Guessing, however, taking a couple of glimmer shots to the face, but will not.
Great Impale coming out from Quaterfall as he down a few of the members, but we see it's going to be Idris jumping onto the back line, trying to find Quisi. They're going with the Chakram, with the Shroud Strike, and they manage to get the kill onto Kestrel and Jewel. So it's only Quaterfall left standing. They should be able to push through with this turret, with this Kraken, and they get the first. They're going for the second. Quaterfall is just a pain. He's in the way. Not going to be able to do anything. And BREN Esports finishing that one out with the first Kraken push. 16 minutes 50 seconds in. GG, well played.
GG, well played indeed. That was a very not expected from BREN Esports, but like I said earlier on, BREN Esports have been showing that they are one of the strong contenders to any top teams up there, and they've proven me wrong, that they don't play weapon battle at all, and they can win game.
Yes, they don't have to have weapon power pedal on their team, but perhaps now it raises some questions of other bans that should be focused on. They didn't ban out the Idris, and they let Taka go through to the side of BREN Esports. And BREN just played their team comp really well. A great dive comp when used against that Kestrel, who just had no way out. As soon as they were caught out with damage, the damage would be constant. And what's very good about Vitaka pickup into the Kestrel is that Vitaka is obviously going to have the bleed, which I believe stops the Kestrel from going invisible. Have to correct